Dating as an Indian or South Asian man, so it could be Indian, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, any of those countries in North America. Now, we've all heard the terms Chad and Tyrone. Chad usually is for the attractive white guy, and Tyrone's for the attractive black guy, and I always found those pretty funny. But what about if you're like me and you have a name that is impossible to pronounce for most people? There's a lot of things for Indian men and, Asian men in general, Chinese, whatever, that make them not confident in the dating world in North America. And the way media portrays us, the way, you're probably made fun of at school for one way or another, one thing or another. And there's a lot of things that sap your confidence if you're an Indian man. But you do not have to be negative about it, because just like everything else in life, there's certain challenges and there's certain advantages that everybody has. And everyone has their preference. And contrary to what you may have heard, there's a lot of women that pedestalize and sexualize Indian men. First of all, Indians are the highest income group in the USA, and have been for a while. The family values and traditional mindset, that's not for everybody, but Indian men are famous for having that. And there's a lot of women out there that's tired of the way the dating world is, and they want more of a traditional man with traditional family values. Another thing we get made fun of is smelling like curry. But Indian food is excellent, and it's new and exciting for a lot of people. And a lot of the women I've dated really do like Indian food a lot. And it's something different. It's not boring. It's not the same old shit. They do enjoy it. Indians are overrepresented at the top end of business and medicine, while Chad and Tyrone, not really. In fact, a lot of nurses really love Indian men because they're surrounded by very powerful and very smart Indian men all the time. So, yeah, there are some disadvantages, but there's a lot of advantages as well. Indian men are seen as more romantic, and we generally are more romantic, and we're more, we have that kind of attitude when it comes to dating. We're seen as different than most of the men that, American women have dated in their past. We're seen as different. There are many women that are interested in Indian and Eastern culture, especially those that practice yoga, Buddhism, vegetarianism, and have traveled to India. They pedestalize Indian men quite a bit, and they're pretty thirsty for our company, to be honest with you. There's a lot of content that emasculates and desexualizes Asian and Indian men, but you can also use that to your advantage. When you laugh at and you act unperturbed with jokes and make jokes about yourself, like, oh, do I smell like curry? Or I used to work at 7-Eleven, or I always say, thank you, come again. and making, lighthearted jokes about Indians and my own culture, women usually find it really funny. And I'm not putting down the culture or whatever. I'm just showing that I don't give a fuck about what people think, and I'm comfortable with myself. So when you make jokes about curry and 7-Eleven and, Slurpees, selling Slurpees and all those other things that Indians are famous for here in America, it's actually shows that you don't give a shit about what other people think, and that's very masculine. That's very attractive when you don't let what other people think perturb you. And I was coaching this Chinese guy who was very shy, and he didn't like when people made fun of him for being Chinese and stuff. And it's fun. It's fun poking fun at your own culture. Sometimes I know a lot of people aren't gonna like that. That's gonna trigger people. But I told him to say that he had 5 ice for dinner. And the girl he was talking to laughed. And if you make them laugh and show that you don't give a shit about the stereotypes and you're just gonna be yourself, laugh it off, and you're unperturbable, it's very, very attractive. So you can use the Indian jokes, you can use the Asian jokes, the 7-Eleven jokes, all to your advantage. And yeah, if you look at the statistics on dating sites, Chad, the white man, and Tyrone, the black guy, those are the most desired ones on Tinder, Bumble, and all the dating sites. But there are a lot of women that actually desire exotic looking men, Indian men, and they're interested in Indian culture, and everyone has what they're into. Personally, I like Russian women, and I like German women. I like a lot of European women. I like their accent. I like their food. Especially like Russian women, I like their traditional values. And I like how they take good care of themselves and stay fit, dress nice, very feminine. And that's just what I'm into. I know a lot of guys that are into Latinas. I'm an equal opportunity dater. I like to date everyone, but out of a lot of dating, that's what I like. And everyone has what they like. And there's quite a few women who are not Indian, white women, Chinese women, Latina women, black women, who do love Indian men, and they like our food and they like our way of life. And they see us as high status. So don't fall into this red pill or black pill or any of these pills, because it's all negative shit and it has nothing to do with you. You control your life. You control how you look out there. You control how perturbed you get and how upset you get at what the world does. But we're not worried about the world. We're just worried about what we're doing, right? If you're a successful person, if you're a confident person, you're worried about what you're doing, not what other people think about you and the people that say no. Worry about the people that do like you and meeting them. It's not in your control who doesn't like you. And for many people, yes, they only want to date within their own race, or they don't like Indian men. Actually, a lot of Indian women don't prefer Indian men. So don't let that get you down. There are a lot of people out there that do desire you if you're taking the steps to take care of yourself and avoid certain big downsides. There are some downsides to being a South Asian Indian man dating in the West, dating in North America. the number one thing is being a mama's boy, where you're monogamous with your mother and no one else, and you ask your mother permission for everything, and you're talking to your mother more than anyone else. That is definitely one thing I've heard from a lot of people that is a red flag with Indian men. So you have to graduate from being a mama's boy, and if you are one, do some soul searching and don't be one anymore and have your own life. The second one is not having a personality and identity outside of your family. So if you were raised in a certain religion, whether it's Hinduism or Islam, or if you're an Indian Catholic, they're viewed as being stuck in their religion and stuck with their own family and not having a personality and identity outside of that. And a lot of Indians in America are very ethnocentric, and they will only hang out with people from their caste and their religion. And in India, they do have a caste system and people from their own religion. And a lot of Hindus have some dietary things where they don't eat beef and different things like that. And they do try and hook up with a lot of white women before they get married with an arranged marriage that's controlled by their family. And there is a bad reputation for that, where some of these Indian men are just trying to smash, just trying to have sex with white women and women outside of their race, black women, white women, whatever. But they will dump that woman unceremoniously to marry the woman that their mama picked out for them and their daddy picked out for them. And that is one thing that a lot of Western women that date Indian men are afraid of. So a lot of white women think that Indian men are using them for sex and a placeholder before an arranged marriage. And that's not right in a lot of ways. So you need to make it clear to the women that you're dating that this is not the case. Another thing that Indian men are guilty of, and we're taught this a lot by our uncles, and I was taught this, our uncles or dads, is wearing too much damn cologne. Just put one or two sprays on. You don't need to bathe in the cologne. And if you've been to India, you know that men like to bathe in cologne. You don't need to bathe in cologne. Another thing, smelling of curry and having BO. That's one thing that is a prejudice against us, that we smell like curry all the time and we have BO, and there's a lot of us that do. And it's one thing if you take your girlfriend out for curry, you both will smell like curry and you've enjoyed the curry, that's one thing. But if you're eating curry every day and stuff, make sure you wash your hands, put lemon juice on your hands. That's really good for getting curry out. But you don't want to be strongly smelling of your lunch wherever you go. Especially if like curry is being cooked in your household a lot. That's not a good look for a first date. Now, of course, if you're going for an Indian restaurant or to an Indian, cooking Indian food at home, both of you are going to smell like curry, so it doesn't matter. Another thing that Indian men are guilty of, and this is going to be a trigger for a lot of you, is not being confident and not being aggressive enough. So like being the type of nice guy that sends tons of texts and very aggressive with that, but you're not confident in yourself and that kind of thing. And just that goes for all men. You got to be confident and you got to go for what you want. But there has been some high profile, assaults of women and stuff in India and stuff. So you don't want to ever do that. But you have to be confident in who you are and not apologetic for whatever your intent is. Another thing, and the last thing that are downsides to an Indian stereotypes are not having muscle or tattoos. And not everyone needs to have tattoos, but a lot of Indian men don't work out and they're not focused on that, and that's not an important thing in their lives, but you got to work out. I think all men need to work out and become as muscular as possible. It's important, and it makes you more attractive. Even if your face isn't that attractive, if you have a lot of muscle, it just makes you healthier and you look better. And yes, getting tattoos helps. Getting tattoos on your arms where people can visibly see them. And I know a lot of Indians culturally don't do that, but it does make you attractive. It's a huge boost. It makes you look like more of a bad boy. So if you've been wanting to get a tattoo, get one. And, you know, there's nothing wrong that a lot of women prefer to date in their race. A lot of women prefer white guys because we live in a white country, and that's okay. You know, and white men are the most sexualized in American, Canadian, the Western society, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there are a large niche of women that are into Indian men, and you should be confident. And I see it all the time. I live near a lot of hospitals with a lot of Indian doctors and Indian people, and you do see interracial couples all the time, and especially with white women, there's a large proportion of white women that do prefer Indian men. They like that we're romantic. They like that we're old fashioned. They like that we're a little more conservative. And that we will treat them the way women want to be treated and let them let go and make the decisions and be the man and be masculine. And Indian men are raised to be masculine and be the leader and, you know, have a woman that follows them. And so a lot of white women, black women, whatever, Western women are not happy with this 50-50 thing that's going on in the West, and they want a more traditional man, and they want a man that's romantic, and they want a man that wants to take care of them financially and otherwise. And Indian men are known to do this. And you've heard a lot of negative red pill, black pill stuff about Indian men, but that's all shit. That's a lot of it's not true. And, you know, just because the stats on dating websites and stuff don't really favor us doesn't mean that if you don't put the effort in and if you pay attention to what I'm saying, that you won't find great women from all races. But if you like white women, if you like black women, if you like women that are American, there's plenty of them that do sexualize and pedestalize Indian men, and they want to explore relationships with us. So I thought this was important to talk about. And from my own personal experience, I'm a very average looking guy. For a long time, I've had very average finances until very recently. And it took me a while to find my step. And, you know, but I've always been able to meet women. I never took seriously what all these losers online say, negative and bitching and complaining. You'll see a lot of people bitching and complaining, Indian men, that it's so hard to date in America and white women don't like us, and even Indian women of our own race are dating white men, and all this fucking negative, stupid lies. And it's simply not true. I have dated women of all races, black, white, Asian, Russian, Polish, Ukrainian, Latina, all of them. And I've had great experiences with all of them. Even when I was broke. Even when I didn't have a car. And it's about you as an individual. It's not about your race. So, you need to be positive. And if you're a mama's boy and too tied into what your family is doing and what your culture is doing, you need to be your own man. And you kind of have to separate yourself as an individual from your family and from your culture. And if you integrate into the Western culture, into the American culture, and of course keep your food, keep the things you value about your culture, but your Indian culture, but if you're well integrated into the American culture, you're not going to have a problem. And there are plenty of women that consider you exotic, just like I consider Russian women exotic. And I like to date Russian women. I like to date American women. I'd like to date American women from the South. think they have a traditional culture and they still believe in romance and love. I've experienced it all. And right now my girlfriend's from the South. She's from Louisiana and we get along very well. And so you have to see what works for you and date as many women as you can until you find the right one. And it is a process of elimination. And yes, I've met plenty of good-looking white guys who are not confident and who are negative and who don't put effort into meeting people, putting themselves out there, making a good dating profile. And I've dated way more women there. And I'm talking about good-looking, tall, white guys. So you guys can either choose to be victims and, make everything racial and act like everyone has it better for you. But that's bullshit. That's bullshit. There's plenty of women that are very interested in dating you. You have to keep your hygiene good. You have to keep your muscles good. You have to stand out. You have to stand out, and maybe you have to try a little harder than Chad and Tyrone. Maybe you'll have to try a little bit harder. But who said anything in life was easy? And who said that you have a fucking right to anything? You're not entitled to fucking anything. You have to put the fucking effort in. You are not fucking entitled to shit. So I am so tired of all the negativity out there, and I've seen too many negative people. But I've also seen plenty of content out there with plenty of interracial couples, Indian men with Russian women, with Polish women, with American white women, with American black women, with Caribbean women, with Latinas. Plenty of content out there of Indian men in interracial relationships. And if that's your thing, if you want to try being with a different culture, you can. And a lot of these men are very average looking, but they keep their beards neat, they dress well, they are good providers, they're good leaders, and they love their women to death. That's what matters. We're all human beings. And if those guys were reading all this negative bullshit that's out there, and if they took all the jokes seriously and all the insults seriously and continued the trauma, maybe we've all probably been made fun of in school when we were young for our weird names and maybe having an accent and all those things. But if you carry your bullshit from your childhood with you and feeling different from everyone else, that's what will happen. And you need to get the fuck over that. And you need to think about yourself as an individual, not a member of a group, not a member of a ethnic group caste, religion, and you just need to think about yourself as an individual and build that confidence muscle. Put yourself out there and not be a damn mama's boy. And it'll be a matter of time before you meet the right woman. If you're still having problems after applying this, I offer coaching for all men, not just Indian men, and women too. But I'm focusing more on relationship coaching these days. You'll have to invest in yourself. It's $100 an hour. But if you want to detoxify your love life, if you want to have a good relationship, if you want the happiness of being in love and being in a good relationship and having a healthy relationship, and you're having trouble doing it on your own, you've tried everything on your own and within your existing support systems, give me an email and we'll set up a time and I'll help you. And you'll have to invest in yourself. It's $100 an hour, but it'll be the best money you spend, and we'll come up with a plan for you. And I will hold you accountable, and I'll be accessible to you. Even if you're not paying me you pay me for the hour, but if you need to send me a text or need to ask me a question, I'm here for you. I always go the extra mile for my clients. I care about you. And for God's sakes, don't be negative and don't be a little bitch whining about everything. Don't be fucking negative. I'm so sick of hearing that. Alright, my friends. I'll be talking to you soon. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I care about you. And I love to hear your comments below. Like and subscribe.